So this session I billed as Advanced Microsoft Word. And my key goal is to change the way that everybody thinks about Microsoft Word. And I believe that once I change the way that, or help people to change the way that they think about Microsoft Word, all of your other problems will fall away, because normally if there's a specific thing that you can't do, there's always a way of finding out how to do it. The bigger issue is the overall picture of what software is meant to do. And I had a very salutary learning experience back in the early 1990s when, as part of a deliberate experiment, Price Waterhouse gave me Lotus Notes to use for about a week with zero training at all, just to see what happened if they gave it to an experienced computer person. I've been using computers at that stage for 12 years. We had an email program that we used within Price Waterhouse, but I had never encountered Lotus Notes, knew nothing about it. And after 2 days, I was tearing my hair out and wanted to strangle the partner who'd given it to me. I then went to a local bookshop and bought a book called Lotus Notes at Work. And when I read that, suddenly I understood what was going on with the program, and I never had a sort of another fundamental problem with it. So that's my goal. And this is a summary of the presentation that I'm going to cover. I always start normal presentations with a disclaimer along the lines of "don't sue me." I couldn't find any way of getting sued for anything I could say today, but what I included instead is just a reminder that avoiding disasters is always under your own control. Quite regularly, we see stories in the newspapers of some poor student who has lost their laptop with 3 years of their PhD thesis on and is desperate to get it back. And while I always feel sorry for people like that, at the same time, you cannot resist the thought that it's entirely your own fault, stupid, because when something really matters, you care about it. And I know how paranoid I was about the risk of loss of my fellowship thesis when I was writing it, and the precautions that I went to, including keeping copies outside my house in case the house burnt down. I've been word processing for a long time. And the very first program I ever bought to do word processing, called The Final Word, ambitious title. And what's interesting, writing this slide, I realized that you never see this abbreviation anymore. What you see is what you get. And it's a sign of my age that I know the abbreviation, because of course, all modern word processing programs, all of them operate on the what you see is what you get model. But the great thing about having learned to word process with something that wasn't WYSIWYG is that you learn the structural concepts. And most of my advanced word knowledge came when I was writing my fellowship thesis, because it was the biggest document I'd ever written, 25,000 words. In fact, it was 42,000 words, the first draft, although I had to then cut it back to 25,000. And I knew I wanted all kinds of things in there, like the table of contents, the cross-references, etc. Didn't know anything about how to do that, but I had to learn. And in fact, I bought a book on advanced word at the time. So I want to start, and this is the most important part of today's talk, with the mental model of what is going on with Microsoft Word. And of course, all of us start by creating small documents. We write letters to people. And creating a small document is pretty straightforward. You start typing, you create words, sentences, paragraphs, and when you've written your sort of page and a half, you've got a finished document, you print it and you send it. But the way to think about large documents is entirely differently. And you have to start at the top by thinking about the document and what it contains. And a Word document always has sections, although it may be that it only has one section, but it is conceptually divided into sections. And what matters about sections is that each section has a header and a footer, and it has some body. The header and footer may be the same on every section, but in that case, there wasn't much point in dividing your document into sections. Because the reason for having separate sections is that you can have separate headers and footers on them. And at its most trivial, you normally don't want headers and footers on the cover, so the cover page of our responses is a section, then the rest of the document is typically the second section. But if we wanted to have a separate footer, for example, for the appendices, we'd make each appendix a separate section. And the body of each section naturally will divide into pages when you start printing it. You can force page breaks, although that's rarely a good idea. So think of the body always just as a load of free-flowing stuff. And the body itself consists of, I couldn't find a word for this, things. I talked about calling them atoms, but that's not right. They're not paragraphs because there can be other things apart from paragraphs. For example, a numbered list or an unnumbered list is a thing. A quote is a thing. So in this presentation, I just talk about things. And the first really key message is that everything has a style, whether you're aware of that style or not. And a style is simply a collection of properties. So here on the left, we've got some style A type things, and they all have red text and they all have red boundaries, and we've got style B type things. And the key message is that all things of the same style have exactly the same properties, and if you want to change how they look, you don't mess around with the text itself, you edit the style. And when you edit the style, everything in the document that uses that style will change. And it took me a while, even as somebody who's been word processing for 30 years, to really get this through my head. And one of the things that's helped is that I also run websites. And with websites, this is much more explicit. So here is a shot of part of one of the pages of one on my website. And that, what you see there, comes from this HTML code. And you see that every bit of text, like the word video, presentation outline, disclaimer, speaker, they are all some kind of thing, which I've marked in red. And if you, using things within HTML and cascading style sheets, if you wanted to change the visual appearance of these on the page, what you would do is you would tell the system, instead of level 2 headings being blue background, I want them to have a red background but no box or whatever. And HTML makes that explicit. Word doesn't make that explicit, which is why it's harder to really fix that in the head. And the overall approach to using Word is to start off by asking yourself, how do I want the document to look? What do I want to do? I want to carry out some kind of action, X. And how do I do it? Well, you may know, but if you don't know, you have to find out. And the first obvious place to look is the help file in Word, but the help file in Word, frankly, isn't very good. It's not really, it doesn't process language queries very well at all. What I always do when I want to do something difficult is I ask on Google, just type a natural question into Google, do a search, and you almost find somebody somewhere who's helpfully answered a question for you in writing or created a little video you can watch to actually do that. And moving on now to some specifics, because earlier on I was talking about the mental model, but now to give you just a few concrete illustrations of that mental model in action. You edit a style by right-clicking the style in the ribbon. You get this drop-down box, the modify style, and I've also clicked the little drop-down for format, and you can see that everything you could ever want to do to a piece of text is available here as part of configuring your style. So, I mean, the style is just a collection of properties. The name of the style doesn't actually mean anything. It doesn't matter whether you call this heading 2 or call this Muhammad Amin super style, it would still be the same thing. And as you know, I invented the normal style name within our responses. When somebody asked me for having numbered paragraphs, and I chose that name just to remind myself that I based it on the normal style. And one of the things I've learned as part of helping with AXA is that how to copy a style between documents, because having created that normal style in one document, I didn't want to have to recreate it in another one. I wanted to just copy it across. The other thing, which seems a lot more trivial, and I'm aware that not everybody knows this, is that when you're pasting into a document, you are making choices, whether you make those choices explicitly or not. And if you simply paste into the document, press Control-V or click on the paste button without looking, you're making a choice of using whatever was set up as the default paste. But in reality, if you click the bottom arrow on the paste, you get these options about whether to keep the original or to adopt the format of the destination or to paste plain text. And if you click on Paste Special, you see the background of even more detailed choices. I normally personally in my own life use the HTML format as my default paste, but when I'm pasting into a document, I always think about, do I want to just, it's often simpler, it's just to paste the plain characters and then they will adopt the style of wherever you're pasting into. The table of contents, again, is a collection of choices that you make. There is a field called table of contents. You put that field into your document and you configure it. You decide how many levels of the table of contents that you want. That field is already picked up to look for tags called heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. That's why I recommend never renaming those particular tags, and heading 4 or heading 5. And those end up in your table of contents. If you use one of these tags, and if your table of contents is to that depth, it will get used in the table of contents. For our recent response to BASE, I only had a 2-level table of contents, so I felt quite safe using heading 3 style in one place, knowing that it wouldn't appear in my table of contents. And cross-references, the one key message is never ever create a manual cross-reference, because as soon as the document changes, you add a few more bits of text and the pagination changes, your manual cross-reference will be wrong. Instead, always create them using the cross-reference tool, and you have a choice when you're using that tool whether to insert a page number. You see I've started here inserting a reference, see page something, and I'm going to choose the page number of the thing I'm referring to, but I could have chosen its paragraph number, etc. The other thing I want to briefly comment on, because it's a task that arises very regularly within AXA, which is managing a large document when there are multiple contributors or editors to that document. And the key thing is that you can only ever have one lead author, although you can have many colleagues, and that lead author has to be the single source and to deal with the combination. One of the great things about Word, which again I learned by doing on the BASE response, is you can consolidate changes from different editors. You can have 4 different editors, 1, 2, 3, and 4. They all send you 4 different amended versions of the original document. And one at a time, you can merge those into your growing master document. And the way I tend to do it is I rename my document every time I go along. So I know it's my original plus DB plus CH, etc. The other thing which Word has always enabled, and which I've been using for many years, but I think people are not always aware of, is that you don't actually need change tracking to help you to compare documents. You can take 2 documents, an original document that you started with and another document that it's become, and it doesn't matter whether change tracking has been used or not, and Word will allow you to automatically generate a red line comparison which you can then save. And the big picture message is that the lead author has to stay in control of the document, otherwise it becomes chaos. That's everything that I wanted to say in the presentation. I'm now going to stop presenting.